Welcome to Unscripted Startups. This podcast is the place to be to receive actionable insight and advice for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs.
I'm going to tell you something. Every person in their life has had $1 million idea. No doubt. You definitely do not need to go to business school to become an entrepreneur. I started Spanx as a frustrated consumer. I had $5,000 set aside in savings. I simply wanted to be able to wear white pants to a party and have nothing show underneath it. The entire time, everyone told me no and said, this is not a great idea. But let me tell you one thing. That means you come up with something brand new. Take it as a compliment. Dear, I'm going to raise as much money as I possibly can and just check in with yourself on that and be willing to start small. Why are you doing this? What's the why? And who are you in the world? Share that part of the story.
I'm going to tell some interesting stories about some of the biggest acquisitions the Walt Disney Company has made. There's a picture on my desk of my shaking hands with Steve Jobs. That moment enabled me to say to Steve, I got this crazy idea. We want to buy Pixar. When you create a brand,
don't look back and have regrets. Look back and say, I tried something, for whatever reason it didn't work, I tried it again. Live your life to the fullest.
Ask yourself, do I have what it takes to lead the company, to lead these people? And my answer to you is, yes, you do.
Based on those three little segments, I think you can guess what we'll be talking about today. We'll be talking about the MASTERCLASS platform and a review of the top 3 business courses on MASTERCLASS. A lot of them are more vocational, related, sports, music, dancing, cooking, but there are a few business leadership ones. And we will be talking about the Bob Iger Masterclass, the Howard Schwartz Masterclass, and the Sara Blakely Masterclass. Sara Blakely talks about self-made entrepreneurship. That's a pretty accurate title. Bob Iger talks about leadership and business strategy. I would take off the leadership because he mainly talks about strategy, which I really like. And then Howard Schwartz talks about business leadership. Yeah, his is pretty much all about leadership. Howard Schwartz and Sara Blakely both built their businesses to what they are, Starbucks and Spank. Howard Schwartz raised money after being denied 240 times pitching to other people. Sara Blakely did not raise a cent of capital and started off with $5,000. On the other hand, Bob Iger started at ABC in a junior position. He worked his way up the company as ABC was bought, and then he continued to rise through Disney, eventually becoming the CEO of Disney. No matter what you think of these people, you can learn something from them. These masterclasses are pretty awesome. The reason why I got masterclass is I was sick of watching entertainment content and not getting any learning out of it. And I did a post on LinkedIn and people are like, well, masterclass just has a lot of fluff. You can't expect the classes to be like perfect. And a lot of people rip off the masterclass name and they're like, join my masterclass, and it's a bunch of fluff. No one is going to give you 100% of their knowledge, especially if you're paying such a little amount. Or they're going to save that information so when you do a $100,000 consulting session with them, and then they'll give it to you. But for the price, I think it's really good. It's $15 a month, but it's paid on an annual basis, $90 for just one class. So it's definitely better to do all the master classes. And I've started at least 10 master classes ranging from gardening to science and business and negotiation. And yeah, I just want to better myself. And one thing to point out, a lot of this information is not going to be groundbreaking information, but it's good to have repetitive information so then you know what areas to focus on and you remember, because just because you hear it doesn't mean you implement it. So it's good to constantly refresh yourself on what things you should be focusing on, because you can go to 1 million conferences and events and listen to 1 million podcasts, but if you don't implement it, it doesn't matter. So it's good to get a refresher on these things, and it's good to remind yourself of what you should be focusing on. And my goal is just to stop as much entertainment content and start doing more education. One of the quotes Sara Blakely says is, being an entrepreneur, you're going to have so many ups and downs, which is super true. It's literally obstacle management. So you have to figure out how are you going to manage these obstacles. I liked her course a lot because she actually talked about entrepreneurship. The other two did not talk about entrepreneurship. They talked about more business stuff when you have a humongous company. I was kind of disappointed. I thought Howard Schwartz was going to talk more about what happened in the early days of Starbucks. He only says he couldn't raise money, and then he skips to when they're major really successful. So if you're looking for an entrepreneurship masterclass, Sara Blakely's is the one, because it's actually geared towards entrepreneurship, has definitely valuable nuggets and worthwhile tips. Also, she talks with some other entrepreneurs and gives some tips in case you're in one of those markets. It's a good fit. Also, she has a lot of great insight. She tells about how Spanx was built, how she chased the premium market, and how she really set her product apart, because no one wants to buy something that's the same price and looks like the same thing, especially in apparel. And so she set her thing apart by charging more, and people are like, why is this more? It must be better. And then the strategy that worked for Starbucks or the strategy that worked for Spanx is probably not going to work for you. So you got to find what fits for you. But she has a lot of good nuggets. She talks about finding your purpose, how she found her purpose with Spanx, developing your big idea, talking with manufacturers and people who are going to be partners and retailers, and filtering your idea, naming it early, because if you give it a name, it feels more alive, how to share your ideas, whether or not to patent it, whether or not to do non-disclosure. She really gives some good nuggets for people who are just starting and don't know a lot of the business stuff. Entrepreneurship mindset, which is so important. Setting your intentions. She has incredible packet of information, 48 pages. A lot of the workbooks for a lot of the master classes are pretty shoddy at best. They're like a couple pages, but hers has like more detail, or just as much detail, and her masterclass is the most raw and authentic to who she is and who people know her as. So I really thought that was special. Howard Schwartz said that I really resonated with is, you don't need a business degree from Harvard to live the American dream, and that is true. Don't pioneer, disrupt. So he's talking about the exact opposite of Sara Blakely. She's like, if you can't find something, create. He, on the other hand, is like, why create a new category when you can just disrupt what people are doing? So currently, are people not doing coffee the right way? Does he charge too much? Disrupt Starbucks. And people have disrupted Starbucks. Focus and get in the mud and really get down to it. Find the right investors. That wasn't very poignant to me. Overinvest in culture. Yeah, he's really heavy on culture and value-based team. And don't manage, lead. Cannibalize yourself. That's super important. You want to put yourself out of business before your competitors do. Then he talks about leadership. I felt like his was a lot of thoughts and ideas and stuff, but a lot of it wasn't super practical. A lot of it was not. It was his idea of leadership and his idea of culture at Starbucks. I'm not sure I'd agree with everything he does. He has built a successful company based on the culture, and which is important because he's coffee company. It's not like a piece of technology that no one can get their hands on. Like, there are many other coffee companies, so the culture is the whole thing that's keeping Starbucks afloat. It's not their beans. I'm sure there are some way better beans out. Yeah, I just did not resonate with his message as much. I felt like it was a little fluffy. Oh, this is something that both Bob and Howard mentioned, and I feel like it's super important to bring up. Super important. Heavy emphasis on only picking 5 or less priorities for the company. Like, what does the company stand for, and what are the 3 to 5 big milestones? Bob Iger picked 3, and it's just like, you gotta decide. You can't be going in all these different areas. You can't be going here, want to target B2B and B2C, and we want to do white labeling, and we want to do this, and we want to do that and that. No, you gotta focus in on 3 to 5 at the most things you want your company to focus on. The strategic priorities of Disney were to invest in creativity, embrace technology, and grow globally, which they have done. Classes, Bob Iger seems like it was the most put together, like the most time, effort, and thought that went into it. He had a bunch of Disney clips sprinkled in there. That's not the reason I liked it, because I'm not really that big of a Disney fan, but it felt like he put in the most effort. Production value was great. The stories, he had so many insights on the acquisitions of the different brand deals. Marvel, Pixar, obviously Pixar was amazing, because anything that includes Steve Jobs is I love talking about or listening about. But yes, that one was really good. Then He talks about acquiring Marvel and whether or not that was going to sully the Disney brand because they're a little more violent per se, which is a little ironic because Disney owns entertainment from kindergarteners to 40-year-old men and everything in between. They have their hands in everything. I mean, look at it. They own Fox, FX, 20th Century Fox, Blue Sky, Searchlight, Hulu, A&E, Timeline, History, FWI, Marvel Studios, Lucasfilms, Pixar, Disney Nature, Disney World, Disney Pictures, Freeform, ABC, XD, Disney Junior, ESPN, and more. So like you cannot watch movies or entertainment and not watch a Disney product. One of the key things Bob Iger said is a strategy is only as good as you are able to articulate it. So it's kind of like a business idea. Everyone thinks their business idea is worth millions and they can't tell anyone about it. But if you can't articulate it, can't show why it's important, you can't show your passion, it doesn't matter. It's not worth anything. So I think that's important. Bob Iger gives a lot of hands-on examples on how he ran certain aspects, especially the acquisition deals. So if you're interested in acquisitions and how Disney went from an okay brand to a big brand, then this is definitely the masterclass for you. If you're looking to build a startup, maybe not so much, but I enjoyed it. He talks about how ESPN has become the most profitable branch of the Disney brand. He talks about how curiosity is super important. And if you're not curious, you won't innovate. And if you don't innovate, you're going to die. He talks about how, I think he was talking with Warner Buffett, and he's like, to look for 3 things in an employee: brains, energy, and integrity. If they don't have the third one, the other 2 will kill you. And I think that's a good wrap up. If I was going to rank these, it would be Sara Blakely, best entrepreneurship, really gives a lot of great ones. Bob Iger gives a lot of examples on acquisitions and building a much bigger brand. But I'm going to rate Sara Blakely higher because hers is entrepreneurship. His, it's just business, and like Disney was a huge brand before he became part of it. He just accentuated that, where she built it from nothing. So I'd rank hers the highest. His would be close second. I would probably give it a 8.6 because level of detail, it's just so much detail. I mean, obviously he's not telling you like the facts that they can't tell, obviously, but like he really goes into detail. His booklet is 36 pages on talking about strategy acquisition, and it talks about how much all the different movies made and how after buying Marvel, the 2 movies that they produced like really took off and basically almost started to pay for buying Marvel. Howard Schwartz, I would just rank him bottom. He gave a lot of good advice, but it was just broad, general. It's like culture fit. Like everyone's talking about culture right now. It's nothing new. Also, he's a little pigeonholed that he's just been in coffee, whereas Bob Iger, yeah, he's in just entertainment, but entertainment has a far-reaching effect, and he's been in multiple positions, and Disney is such a big brand where Starbucks really only sells coffee. He didn't even talk about how they got Starbucks and the Pepsi deal, where Pepsi sells and produces the canned coffee and sells that in the stores. That would have been a cool thing. He didn't really talk about how he built the company. He just talked about like leadership and some of these things, like a few steps, like how they got into China and stuff, but it wasn't too deep. So they really need someone to do a small business masterclass, someone who has built a small business. I mean, she built a really big business, but they need other perspectives because they have so many music artists and so many film producers and so many rappers and all that stuff. They need more business courses. If we get a lot of downloads for this episode, then I'll consider doing another one on the leadership ones. There's Anna Winter, Jeff Goodby, and Rich Silverstein, the marketing and advertising. There's Chris Voss. Really enjoyed that one. That one's a really good one. Yeah, there's really only like 4 business ones, which is kind of sad. Worth the investment. I'm not disappointed I spent the time watching the classes because I learned something, and it gave me an insight that I didn't have, and it's better than just watching regular TV. I personally think I've watched a few classes that were total fluff, aka the gangster gardener. Anyone could have YouTubed what he was going to talk about. That's life. And a lot of business events are just fluff, or networking events. They're not telling you anything you don't hear. I took a social media class, and I think I could count on my hand how many times I heard something new about social media. It's good to get the reminder and like You just need to seek out the information. If you want to learn something, seek it out. Otherwise, you're not going to learn. And this is part of the process. Sometimes people are not going to be as inspiring as you think. Reach out and tell me what you think of this episode and what you think about Masterclass in general. Mash that subscribe button and start downloading each and every episode. I hope you guys have an incredible week, and don't forget to live life 1% better each and every day. Until next time, this has been a Unscripted Startups production. Don't forget to check us out online at unscriptedstartups.com or on your favorite social media platform at Unscripted Startups.